Extraction shooters are set to create a new trend in FPS gaming. Here's what they are, why Web3 is a perfect fit for them, and which project is sitting right under your nose at the intersection. In the years leading up to 2018, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds was advancing the Battle Royale genre, one in which a large number of players, anywhere from a couple dozen to 100, would be dropped into a map where they would scramble to collect weapons and gear to survive as the map gradually constricted and forced players into encounters in a free-for-all, every man for himself fashion. And then, Fortnite came. Fortnite took the world by storm with its unique take on Battle Royale, introducing sandbox mechanics, more stylistic graphics, and more accessible gameplay. Since then, basically every shooter, from Battlefield to Call of Duty, includes some kind of Battle Royale mode. Now there's three unique elements that contribute to the genre having spread like wildfire. Firstly, Battle Royale allows for maximum chaos. Rather than just a 6v6 or 5v5 with two teams, it's 1 versus 99, or your squad versus 24 others. As a result, a large range of potential outcomes opens up, increasing the standard deviation between matches and therefore increasing the replay value. Secondly, in matches where the player or team more or less fails, dying early, they can simply leave the match immediately and start the queue again. As a result, by definition, the player is much more likely to spend a majority of their time in a game where they're finishing in the top half of performers. Contrast this with a team shooter where only one team wins, and therefore it's to be expected players will spend roughly half their time losing. And lastly, in Battle Royale, the action begins immediately. Contrast this with MOBAs like League of Legends, or to a lesser extent, tactical shooters like Rainbow Six or CSGO, in which the clashes between players often take a few minutes to commence, and if you die early, you must wait till the round finishes to get another chance. That's what drives some of the popularity behind Battle Royale. So what's an extraction FPS? Well, it has all the aforementioned characteristics, plus many compelling features that make MMOs a staple genre, such as persistent characters, extensive progression systems, a loot and gear economy, missions, and lastly, PvE plus PvP elements being mixed together in the same match.
¿Por qué no los dos?
Old El Paso, hard and soft tacos.
So you get the best of Battle Royale, plus some of the best of MMOs, and some additional novel elements such as putting in-game assets at risk. For these reasons, the Extraction FPS is poised to be the next evolution of the meta in competitive shooter games. And also for these reasons, the blockchain is a great solution to provide the backend necessary to allow for player ownership of the in-game economies that develop, and can properly incentivize value add to the ecosystem through player and creator rewards. So with that being said, let's talk about Shrapnel, the AAA Extraction FPS shooter built on the blockchain with sustainable and player-driven economics at its core. As discussed in previous videos, the credibility of the studio and team behind the project is one of the first things to evaluate in an up-and-coming game. And Shrapnel looks to be knocking this one out of the park with a highly experienced team from across the gaming, tech, and entertainment industry, collectively having worked on Halo, Call of Duty, and Westworld, and having held high positions at firms such as Xbox Game Studios, Amazon, Microsoft, NBC Sports, and HBO. So they have our attention. Let's see what type of economy they're cooking up. We'll start with the in-game economy, what your character may be risking his skin for. Literally, there will be cosmetics and vanities that players can loot, create, or purchase to stand out amongst the crowd. The best of these will be created using classified materials that are scarce and visually stand out, status symbols. Classified vanities will cost a fee to mint and can only be crafted using classified materials. Due to its limited supply, the cosmetics made with these special materials stand to draw demand, And because they can all be broken back down into their raw materials to reuse in the creation of new classified gear, they should also maintain a solid floor. This opens up a lot of opportunities for creators to break down cheaper classified gear and turn it into better gear to sell for a profit on the market. And we're just talking about the vanities there. Let's talk gear with a role in gameplay. Each player will be wearing a helmet, gloves, and boots, as well as carrying a melee weapon and having a firearm with components. While all players start with basic gear, by playing the game and collecting parts and gunsmithing, you can create highly customized builds based on your playstyle. Gear will come in 3 tiers: standard, refined, and perfected. From reading the economic white paper, it's clear a lot of careful attention was paid to the supply and demand balance of gear. As such, supply inflation can only occur in 3 ways. Standard gear being purchased from the Shrapnel platform, standard gear being seeded into and then extracted from a map, and then refined or perfected gear being crafted via gunsmithing. The only gear seeded in-game will be standard, while refined and perfected can be looted from other players, gunsmithed, or purchased on the market. The market will be supported by both players and the Shrapnel platform, which I mentioned earlier. The platform will both buy and sell standard gear at fixed prices, and players will actually be the market makers within that spread. The team believes that the platform will reduce the severity of negative market cycles and avoid reliance on continued player growth, something on our mind as well that we like to hear. While seeding each map with gear is inflationary, there is always an equivalent sink because players can only extract a certain amount of weight per round, meaning they'll have to leave something behind to bring something new out. All gear left after the map is complete will be burned. In fact, the deflationary pressures from matches will outweigh the inflation because some players will enter into the map and die and be unable to extract. You'll be able to burn multiple low-tier gears to aid with crafting higher tiers. Plus, there's another reason to engage in crafting yourself. Gunsmithing has a progression system. So higher-level gunsmiths will actually be capable of crafting higher-tier gear, like a stock that reduces even more recoil. Speaking of the specific components, each weapon has 4 of them that affect gameplay in a unique way. So what will you be using to buy and sell this gear? Well, the SHRAP token will power the play-to-own and create-to-own economy that Shrapnel is building. You can expect to use SHRAP to participate in governance, engage in marketplace transactions, mint player-created content, and pay validators. Players will be incentivized to create all sorts of value-add content from vanities to gear to maps, and will be rewarded through a community pool that unlocks over 5 years. To illustrate just how deep they are going with the creator economy, not only will players be able to create maps and profit based on their usage, but a player can create map objects or building blocks to then be reused by other players to speed up their map creation process. Landowners and content curators will then work with map creators to host the maps on land where they'll have a chance to be exposed to more players, grow in popularity, and bring in revenue for all parties involved. The really good maps will rise through the tiers of land, and the most successful of them will eventually reach the highest visibility in Shrapnel at the podium, where they will be exposed to the largest portion of the player base, collecting fees proportional to the user activity within the podium. Podium land represents an asset that allows the owner to take part in the ecosystem without any need to manage anything, whereas other land will require some management or outsourcing of map curation as the owner must decide what maps to host. In the case of the podium, it's always just hosting the most popular maps. Let's zoom back out and think about how these interact with the gameplay dynamics to incentivize this diverse set of market participants. It's clear Shrapnel is designed to provide value to players of all types with various risk tolerances, skill levels, and wallet sizes. I've mentioned a few times that players will risk their gear for the opportunity to extract new gear from a map, to be later used or broken down or sold. But there is another option, one that will be valuable for players starting from zero or ones that have low risk tolerance. This is the contract operator, or ConOps for short. A a temporary character that will enter the match with a base loadout, as opposed to the Mercenary Extraction Force Operator, or MEFOP for short, that represents your long-term character and stands to lose his or her gear upon failing to extract. So value will only be on the line if you as a player want it to be. But with less risk also comes diminishing rewards as well. While ConOps allows players to build out their personal inventory without risking value, they can't be used to extract value risk-free to sell to the market. Only gear extracted by a MEFOP can be transferred or sold on the market. This reduces supply on the market and increases value for those who extract it in a high-risk environment. Additionally, playing as a ConOp will be on a cooldown. And there will also be levers that can tweak the number of ConOps allowed per map, which will effectively modulate the incentives by increasing queue times. Even as a MEFOP, there is still a distribution of risk a player can decide to take on or forego, because you can extract at different times throughout the match. If you're feeling conservative, you may hop in, get a few key pieces you want, complete your mission, and extract immediately and safely. But if you want that adrenaline rush, you can also opt to stay much further into the match to have an opportunity to run into players with refined or perfected gear. But doing so risks failing to extract if defeated by those players who would also like a peek at your gear. So, in Shrapnel, we have a AAA team working on evolving a genre that is poised to make serious waves in the world of gaming. They've given deep thought to a diverse and robust economic system that incentivizes player-created content, and they've structured the gameplay to be flexible enough to cater to a diverse set of users and risk appetites. And they're building it all on the blockchain to give the players ownership. Keep in mind, our intention is not to have you go and buy assets. This is far from financial advice. Our goal is to pique your interest and show you an upcoming blockchain game that we see a lot of potential for, and perhaps motivate you to follow the project yourself and do your own research and play it when it comes out. Thanks for watching. See you next time.